So this video is going to be a bit, a bit different to the usual ones. I've decided I should probably start making videos about people who influenced me a lot, or just important people to me. And so last night I was trying to think of a song that I liked a lot, I hadn't heard for quite a while, and couldn't remember any of the words, or the title, or the name of the group, although I knew it was a Northern European group. So some Googling revealed that it was called Shape Up, the song by a Swedish indie pop group, I guess, called Club 8. And a bit more Googling, I found some dodgy Romanian file sharing site where I could download the song. And since then I've probably listened to it about 100 times since last night. I'm in a lot of pain at the moment. It's very difficult to sleep, so I was up until about 4 o'clock this morning trying to get to sleep, and listening to this song again and again and again. And the song, I was introduced to it by ScottLockman via his one of his podcast episodes. ScottLockman was Japan's first podcaster. I think he started maybe 2004, and I first heard his podcast Tokyo Calling in the summer of 2007. And he was always very careful that music that he put on his podcast was so-called pod-safe music. And even though Club 8 were a relatively commercially successful group, they had put out this track for free, Shape Up, from their album called The People's Record. And it's just probably my favourite song at the moment, one of them. And just kind of thinking about that song and finding it again and listening to it a lot made me think a lot about Scott, and just how incredibly privileged I am to know him, really. So I thought it'd be good to talk a little bit about him and why he's so important to me. I think most people who know Scott personally would think of him mainly as a philosopher. I think that that's an accurate description, but I really think of Scott much more as an artist, and think about the all the incredible art he creates. He's annoyingly good. He's annoyingly good at what he does. I do know for a fact actually he slaves over his art, really, and it's like that Woody Allen thing. Woody Allen said, if people knew how hard I work to be this funny, it wouldn't seem so funny. Scott works very, very, very hard for his work, for his art, and I always think of him more as an artist than a philosopher, because he has these ways of seeing the world that are so powerful. He just has such deep insight into stuff, and I remember a few times it was actually quite difficult talking to him, because I'd be telling him about something and he'd just have a perspective on it that was so jarring and so kind of beyond what I'd considered. He had this way of kind of seeing through stuff, which was just so powerful, and which I in my rather pathetic attempt I desperately tried to I try to have his ways of looking at things. But yeah, as an artist, the stuff he creates is incredible. Mainly it's what you call spoken word stuff. He created a massive body of work with his Tokyo Calling podcast, and did a whole bunch of other audio projects as well, although Tokyo Calling was the biggest. And but he also does a lot of these kind of visual mashup things that are just so witty and fantastic stuff. So yeah, I was just thinking a lot kind of last night about how how incredibly fortunate I am to know him, and B, how stupid I was not to spend a lot more time with him when I had a chance, because sadly he's no longer living in Japan. I'm desperately hoping he'll come back here sometime, at least for a visit. But 2007, when I think it was summer 2007 when I started listening. It was that I lived in Japan a couple of years. I was back in the UK, missing Japan desperately, and just kind of discovering his podcast and then on his recommendation, listening to Finding Japan, done by Christopher Schneidel, I think pronounce it. And of course Bicycle Mark with the Citizen Reporter podcast. So both of those podcasts I discovered through ScottLockman. I think it was just a very kind of a great way to get the energy and the focus I needed to get myself back to Japan, which I managed to do, and that was 10 years ago. So Scott and his podcast were very important to me just for that. That reason alone was quite a major thing. And I just thought, wow, if I could get back to Japan and meet Scott, wouldn't that be amazing? And meet Christopher. And it happened, it did happen. And in fact, actually, shortly after I started listening to Tokyo Calling, I got to meet Bicycle Mark at it must have been quite shortly after that at a hacker camp. That was I hadn't heard Bicycle Mark's podcast, but I had seen him maybe the previous December. He gave a talk on citizen journalism and podcasting or something at the Chaos Communication Congress in Berlin. It's now in Hamburg, but at that time it was in Berlin. And Bicycle Mark and ScottLockman were sort of pioneers of podcasting, really. Particularly, they both did these. I think they called them soundscapes. Bicycle Mark would walk around the market in Amsterdam with his MP3 recorder, and Scott would kind of walk around in parks and through Shinjuku train station, which is the world's busiest train station, in fact. And just somehow they both had the insight and the foresight to understand that what they were doing was worth doing, was important. It obviously cost money at that time. Just incredibly lucky I feel to got to know all three of them, Bicycle Mark, Scott and Christopher. So thanks for listening. That's my daughter Jessica, you can just see. The Tokyo Calling podcast is still out there on the web. In lots of places you can find it. I think there's episodes of Archive Dog and bits on SoundCloud. Lots of the episodes still out, really worth listening to. And thanks a lot. And my Cancer Fund website is www.matthewdons.org, and there's a link on this YouTube video. Cheers.